Hi everyone. I had a very good introduction last section, and in contrary to e-voting, I'm going to tell you about internet or I-voting in that case. Because when we started this topic, it became very clear that using some specific machines on a polling booth it makes just life more complicated and riskier. And the issue is not the accuracy or speed of counting of votes. People do that in Estonia in 2-3 hours, and people enjoy the show on the television. So it was natural to go for internet voting. So first of all, not all of you might know what the Estonia is all about, but it's a very small country, which makes it very easy to do great things. But the country is also very eager to use the new technology. Everyone has cell phones, everyone owns an internet banking account, and there is a lot of free Wi-Fi usage. But most of all, the significant thing here is that Estonia is one of few countries in Europe or in the world where we can speak of PKI penetration, meaning that people can actually identify themselves in an internet. And percentage-wise, it is the biggest rollout of ID card in Europe, and that's the reason I'm going to talk about a little bit about the card first, because this was actually the very enabler of internet voting in Estonia. So, just a few months ago, we actually had the very official voting, and the possibility to cast a vote electronically through the internet was open to everyone. There have been a lot of pilots and stuff on that area in the world, but that was the very first time when about the 80%, almost all, had the possibility actually to choose internet voting instead of traditional way. But of course, only 2% of people use that possibility, which was actually foreseen result. But first of all, I'm a lazy guy. I'm going to show you a video about ID card. I hope we have some audio. Do we? No, we don't have audio. Problems. There might be some. It's all turned off. Sorry about that. Maybe we have. Jesus. Okay. I'm not messing around here. I rather continue with my presentation because I don't know what the problem is here. But okay, nevertheless, with the ID cards project, we started pretty early. In '97, I had a plan that it takes 14 months to issue a first card, but well, actually it took 5 years. So the first cards were issued around 4 years ago. So pretty much everyone would have a card by the end of this next year then. Okay. because of it was the unique chance to replace the current passports. The first passports started to expire in 2002, and when people came in and wanted a new passport, they could have a ID card as well. The ID card is what it is. Well, it's compulsory for residents. Compulsory in a soft sense, meaning that nobody will put you in a jail if you don't have one, but the correct term for that would be it's a primary identification document, primary. So you can travel with it within Europe. It's a primary document when you do things with, I don't know, government, stuff like that. Of course, it has this visual part, but the important here part is that it has an electronic part as well, containing all the information which is printed visually, but also two certificates. And certificate for authentication, it comes actually with the email address for secure email exchange, so you get a lifetime government-issued email address. And also the certificate and key for digital signature. Well, how to use that is, of course, you use it in the shops to prove your identity, for example. But as of now, for example, because of it contains this data electronically, the ID card is used as a transportation ticket. Today it's just transportation, but in the future it might be that it would be a cinema ticket as well. Because of Estonia's this personal identification number, like social security number in other countries, this number is widely used. So if you stick the card in, the system would know your personal identification number and can check their own database for whatever it is, whether you are insured, whether you are entitled to enter a library, or you're entitled to travel with a public transportation, whatever. So this is kind of low-tech part of the usage, but the high-tech or peak high side of that is that I would say all major websites, internet banks, whoever, which require for authentication, allow this with ID card. Though it's not very much used, because we have a very long tradition of internet banking, and everyone has the password cards. And with that, you can enter internet banks and also other services. So it's not killer application. But what it actually has, something new here is that I think Estonia is pretty much the only country when we have some notion of so-called free-flowing digital signatures, meaning that we have been agreeing on a common document format. Everyone accepts that, and the public administration actually has an obligation to accept digitally signed documents. So the people have generated nearly 1 million digitally signed documents, which are equal to handwritten ones. So when it comes to internet voting, it's always thought that it's a mecca of every engineer, and it has so many issues. But from that perspective, the crucial issue with internet voting is the user authentication part. And having that solved, then you can see internet voting as just another ID card application. Well, sounds simple, but of course it isn't simple. This project for me was more like not a technology project at all. The technology part was a simple one. Well, what were crucial, and the token for internet voters is also there. So it's simple. But this was about building a trust. And how you do that is that you make the process as transparent as possible. You involve as much people or specialists as possible. You secure the law part, the politicians part. You define the procedures. You involve observers. You teach them. You involve also heavy kind of accounting mechanisms. Well, from legal part of view, there was a first wave in 2002 when the voting laws were amended, and then just few bullets about internet voting were written in. Basically, what it says that you need the ID card, you need to confirm your choice with digital signature, and it is used, internet voting is used in pre-election days. So from Monday to Wednesday, 3 days, you can also vote electronically. Well, then when the system became more clear, it needed some amendments, further amendments to the law, and of course there are political parties not in favor of internet voting at all. Well, the people whose electorate is kind of old and from country. So, and we had this kind of president as well, old and from country, protecting their interests. So we had the long fight in the summer, this summer, and President rejected the amended law twice, and it went to the National Court, which of course rejected the President. And of course the reason for the President was that we had a system with a repeated voting on the internet, so just the last vote will count. The reason is obvious. You can cast the wrong vote occasionally, and you can cast wrong vote with the influence, under the influence of someone. Your wife or your boss, or I don't know, would stand behind you when you're voting in the internet with a laptop and saying that you shall cast this guy. Okay. So what you do this, and when the influencer goes away, you just make your own choice, and that's it. But it was unconstitutional, of course, because you cannot vote repeatedly in paper, so that was the issue. So the main principles are that, of course, all major principles of voting as such are followed. One, secrecy, one guy, one vote, so on and so on. The specifics here are that the ID card is required and repeated e-voting is allowed. And also the supremacy of paper ballot, actually. If you cast the vote in paper and also in internet, then the paper vote would prevail. Well, again, the reason is obvious, that you cannot remove the vote or cancel the vote when it's put in a box, okay, in ballot box. But you can do that with the internet vote, e-vote. And the fun part here is that if you look at the projects from other countries, then the internet voting requires you to get some credentials first. So you have to go somewhere, prove your identity, and get some credentials to authenticate to the system. Well, it makes no sense, because if I go somewhere, then I would go for paper voting instead of getting some credentials and messing with that. So the efficiency of internet voting in Estonia is that you won't need any other registration. If you're registered with your place of living, you are eligible, and you're having ID card, you're eligible to vote. Right. Well, this is what it says. Well, the problem here is that not many people have been using the ID card electronically because there are not much reasons, not many reasons for using it. Average people, they don't sign papers very frequently, maybe 1-2 times a year. And the other systems are accessible by other means. I mentioned the internet banking codes and stuff like that. And therefore, not many people have a smart card reader at home or at work. Well, I can estimate there are maybe some 20,000 smart card readers installed, which actually covers pretty much, but still. So there is no reason to buy that. So that's why not many people voted electronically. And system required smart card reader. It supported. It still supports these 3 operating systems. Basically, that's all you need. So how it goes is that you go to the correct website. Then, well, this is illustrative, very nothing to do with the real thing. And enter pin 1, smart card reader, and you will be immediately recognized because where do you constituencies, where do you elect who you are and what are your candidates. So basically what you do is you just select the candidate and press vote and enter a PIN for digital signature, and you actually go through. So it takes like 12 seconds. So compared to going to some polling station in the winter time through the snow and wind, well, it's somewhat easier. Well, how it works, it's very basic schemes here. It shall explain pretty much everything. What it is the notion of double envelope, which is actually known from paper world as well. If you go to somewhere not in your hometown in pre-election days, you will be given a chance to vote in a way that you seal your vote in a smaller and anonymous envelope. And then this envelope you put in the bigger envelope and wrote your address in there and your ID code. And based on that outer envelope, it's transported to the proper polling station, and it's opened, and then you are registered that you have voted, and the inner envelope, which is anonymous, is put into the ballot box. Well, this works in the very same way. So when the voter makes his choice, this choice will be encrypted with the public key of the system. And then this encrypted vote is signed by the voter, which makes it personal. And it happens all before this vote goes to the network. It happens in the local computer. So this vote will be sent to the central place, okay, central server, and then you can see that if this guy has voted before, you throw away the previous votes, for example, and if it needs to be cancelled for some other reason, you can do that. And before counting the votes, these outer envelopes, the personal data, they are removed. And so to say, the voting vote counting machine accepts only these anonymous encrypted votes. So there is not loss of privacy here. And of course, they are counted in results output. Well, this is very rough scheme of the architecture that's going on here. So we have something like a voter application on the user's computer, which takes care of this encryption and digital signing. Now we have just vote forwarding server here. This is the web server you talk to. And this forwarding server doesn't actually save these encrypted votes. It sends it back to the vote storing server. Okay, so there is no direct access to the database of the casted votes. And before counting this, of course, which takes place offline, and these votes, anonymous votes, are transferred to the application through the with the external media. Of course, the principles building this system was that every transaction, every move is logged heavily, and there are special means for verifying these logs to see whether they are consistent with each other or not. So you can actually track what happened with the vote from server to server. So you can actually see whether your vote was actually taken into account or not. But of course, you cannot see which vote it was actually. About the technology, yes. The trick here was that, first of all, you gather every guy in a city or in a country who could speak out on a topic and take them all to the sauna and let the ideas flow. So basically, in various stages of the development of the system, there were, building a concept, then security analysis, and so on. We put together different teams of people who could influence the development of the system. Simplicity, of course. Everyone could, yes.
I have a quick question from a security standpoint. I understand you said there are plenty of logs once the vote reaches your system, logs between the servers. But for me on the user end, if I'm voting on my home computer, 80% of computers have spyware and malware installed. So how do I know that I am actually voting for who I think I am? How do I, as a user, know that I'm on a computer that I can trust? I mean, if I have an Internet Explorer plugin that instead votes for candidate B instead of candidate A, but shows me candidate A, how can I verify my vote?
Yes, that's a good question, because you can never be sure with internet voting. It's evident that the weakest link here is a computer of the voter, and the actual threat you can do is actually to write such kind of, there is this voter application. If you replace that, okay, which would behave that disregarding what you choose, it just costs the wrong vote. Well, you cannot actually fight with that. What you could do, what we did is of course, we were publishing the Mac codes of the software, publishing the instructions how to verify whether this software is authentic or not, and then to pray and see whether there will be an attack. What we did was that, okay, we come to that. From an operational point of view, it was very, very challenging. But it's definite that you cannot fight with this threat as long as we talk about PCs and internet as of today. Okay, what it says is that keep it as simple as possible, use the stable platforms, well-known tools, nothing fancy. And the reasons are evident. To keep it as simple, to be auditable. understandable, auditable, checkable. Okay. This is actually what was related to that question. The procedures. All the actually use cases in a procedure of setting up the voting, launching it, finishing it, counting the votes, all the procedures were very accurately and fully documented. And 2 months before, before the election day, we started the courses with the auditors. We used KPMG auditors and invited all the political parties to participate on this kind of crash course. For them to understand, we wanted to have observers, we wanted to have auditors, but it's extremely difficult for some political guy to understand what's actually going on. So what we had is this kind of courses. We explained during a month, twice a week, to them how it's built, where is which document, what they should read, what they should understand, what they don't want to understand, and so on. Yeah, and we also were very cautious with these procedures, critical procedures. We videotaped everything. In course, in case someone would question the procedures or correctness, we could prove something. Now also, we put together a team of security, IT security experts who actually are operating on some banks, some bigger telecoms, some other institutions. We had a networked team to monitor the activity, what's going on a Estonian internet, so to say, what kind of attacks there are. Is there anything which we could suspect as being related to the internet voting system, targeting it? So we monitored every virus before and during the internet voting period. About physical security as well, it was a lot of fun. A lot of policemen distrusting each other. And yeah, we gave up with the idea to use some telecom operator or commercial operator, and instead of that, we pick up the police, actually, which have very advanced hosting facilities available, plus physical security in terms of, uniforms. And of course, one thing to mention is that that sealing of various things for just preserving the evidence that nothing was changed or something was authentic was used and nothing changed in between. That sealing of hardware and also sealing of pieces of information stored on CDs, and so it was very, very important. Well, this is just one picture from the statistics. Maybe the fun part here is that in which time people vote. First, they get to the working place, and then they come home. So from this perspective, even it seems that peak is beer, okay, but it's pretty much equal between home and workplace. But finally, why we did that, first of all. It wasn't about bringing the new voters in. A lot of people thought of that, but it doesn't bring new voters. It's about I would say lifestyle. If people are used to do everything over the internet, and some generation, the younger generation, doesn't want to do things differently, they presume that if they can do all the finances with internet banking, they can deal with the government, with their e-services, evidently they shall be able to vote over the internet as well. It's natural. And this is about answering to that attitude. This is also big change in mind change, the internet voting. You see, there is, for example, there is no, someone would say that there is no privacy if you are not in polling booth and in the closed box. And it's about new thinking, how to think of privacy. The privacy is freedom, is defined as freedom to be able to cast the vote for the people, or for the choice they want to, not the forced going into the voting booth. And also I would say that now we have done that in Estonia. I think it will stay there with forthcoming elections, and fighting with it makes no sense, because it will come one day anyway. It's a matter of how to deal with this challenge. And this is about it. I think we have some time for Q&A.
Did you consider using offline security, I think it's called security tokens, for entering the candidate, and these things generate a code that you enter into your computer and send it off? This would be operating system independent, and it would be a bit more secure than entering the candidate you vote for in the computer directly.
Well, the whole procedure actually of making the selection and encrypting and then digitally signing, you can think of it as an offline operation. First, you have to obtain this application list of candidates securely, make sure that it's all consistent. But the operation of voting is absolutely has nothing to do with the interactions with the server, something like that. So it happens locally.
Yes, but if someone, for example, change your Internet Explorer or something, then he can make you vote for the wrong candidate.
Yes.
And if you enter all the data in an offline device, you're also operating system independent, which is an additional advantage. And these devices do exist.
Yes. Well, it's pretty much impossible to do things offline. It's about internet voting, isn't it?
They are called offline devices, but of course you generate code and you enter the code into the...
you mean some kind of pin calculators, and
yes,
stuff like that?
Something like
the authentication with the PKI-based ID card is considered more secure than symmetric cryptography driven PIN codes.
They're also asymmetric.
Okay. Yes, but there is tool for the secure enough and the ID card.
I understand there were about roughly 10,000 voters who used this possibility. Can you say how many of them actually did that from home with their PC?
Yeah, well,
there was an opportunity to vote from polling stations, I think, in banks or telecom offices and so on. How many actually did vote from home?
Okay. We don't know numbers because we cannot track who were at home or not. We can look at the statistics from time perspective. It's evident that these guys were voting from home. Okay. There were also special possibilities for voting provided by some open internet points, like in one bank actually provided that opportunity, National Library, and also one telecom operator for the offices.
Are there any particular requirements with respect to the card readers? Do they have to be secure readers? We call them class here, class 3 here in Germany. I don't know whether you have the same classification scheme. And
there were no such requirement.
It's a normal card reader?
Yes.
Awesome. Has your system ever been certified by any independent authority with respect to security requirements?
It has been
against any standard in that area.
Yeah, that would be good. That we would have some standards, but it was audited, of course, the system. But unfortunately, there is no good standard for an internet voting system yet to be compliant with. So it was the requirements were set. They were agreed upon requirements, and then the audit just made sure that the system corresponds to the requirements set. That's all you can do.
Okay, one question. You were mentioning that your servers were running Debian, basically, and there was one sentence that said you were relying on few external libraries as possible. Did I get that correctly? Is that only does that only mean closed source third-party libraries or libraries in general?
Well, first of all, it's a stripped down Debian, of course, which means that the minimum which were required was only used from the open source part. And then we had the rest is closed source, so to say, built upon.
So the software is not open source entirely, as neither on the server nor on the client side. Is that correct? Because I could think there's a huge discussion going on in Germany on on e-voting, not actually internet voting, and I think on the US as well, where people are arguing that having an open source solution that everyone can look into is being considered more secure than something that is closed source.
I absolutely agree, and this is a tricky question. First of all, what we did is, of course, we opened the source to the third parties for auditing. Anyone who actually came in, we provided them with software, but we required an NDA to be signed. Now, what's the reason is that the same threat I explained before is that someone takes the client part of the software and turns it into virus with and of course, they can do it today because all the specifications are open, the protocols are open, but not just to make the life so easy. We had to make this decision, so we are keeping it semi-open, semi-closed, how you want to do that, defined.
Terje, I'd like to know if you spotted any hacking attempts during the election, and what kind of countermeasures you had in place?
Well, fortunately enough, there weren't any serious attempts. We had a public pilot in January, actually, this year, yeah, okay. For that case, we actually hired some people to attack the system, and some of people also tried themselves. It was okay, I mean, but this time, in official occasion, there weren't any serious attacks. Some tried some URLs and stuff, but it's like nothing. So as I said, we had a team for monitoring all these kind of activities around network, stuff like that, being alert 24 hours a day.
I think there's agreement that there is a threat that somebody could compromise the clients and change the votes there. So what would have been your plan if this actually would have happened?
First of all, you have to prove that this has been happened.
Yeah, you get a machine on forensics and you see there is something on the machine which is actually doing it, it's reproducible and all that.
Yes, and then you have to see how large this attack was, and then you have to decide whether this was influencing the results of the voting or not. And if you decide that it influenced actually, then by the law we have a possibility to say, sorry, we failed with internet voting, go vote manually on Sunday.
Okay, yet now we go a step back, because actually you gave the answer I expected first. We have first to prove that it is this way. So we can end up in a situation where it can perhaps not be proved, it can only be made plausible, because this attack is removing itself smartly from the machine. Don't you think that this could be a real danger if this system is in much more widespread use than it is now?
This is a very interesting topic indeed. This threat, as many of other threats actually, can be, one day it can be true. So the attitude towards this is that there is a lot of issues actually, even in paperwork, there are a lot of people coming saying that it was wrong in that station and this behavior. That's a normal way of solving this kind of complaints if they came in. So you have to prove it, and then there is a national electoral board who actually making decisions. So it's no different from the real world, and this is of course an interesting issue. What we have so far is a very well documented list of these kind of threats, which can happen one day, and then we'll see how we solve it. I don't know.
I strongly disagree on this, because you can get a much larger scale as you can ever get with physical voting.
I can't hear.
If you want it.
I just want to say that election fraud has been there with paper votes too. Stuffing ballot boxes is a known issue, but so there are procedures to address it.
Exactly. Election fraud is there today. It's solved on a daily basis. Now the internet voting brings some additional threats to it, but I can say that nobody has actually made a security analysis on a paper voting, at least in Estonia. But we have done very, very deep analysis of internet voting threats, and even some countermeasures.
Now, you being involved in the project, you're obviously confident that the system is secure and the system has been audited by KPMG. But as a voter, how can I be sure that the audited system is actually the one being used in the election? And how can I be sure that the system is not switched against another system when it actually comes to the election?
Yes, first of all, you have to trust me, of course. But of course, as I said, there was an opportunity for political parties and representatives. Everything which is critical is videotaped. People go in, in pairs and so on and so on. It's about normal security measures. Of course, everyone cannot be 100% sure, but well, the voters, they can trust either their favorite party representatives overseeing the process, or trust auditors, or bring some questions up and have a complaints solved afterwards, watching videotapes, whatever they want to. You never can, if you for some reason you believe for internet banking, I can show the 1,000 ways why it's impossible in paper, but in practice people use that and moving huge amounts of money. The same goes for voting. You have to trust the system. If you don't trust the system, you don't trust the election system, electoral system at all, for example. That's part of electoral system and relies on the trust of election officials. Yes.
Hello. Are the citizens able to generate and regenerate their own public-private key pair, or are they only using the pair that was issued by the state on their ID card originally?
Well, there are a couple of keywords involved. First of all, of course, for personal authentication, people use their ID card. But the system has their own key pair, private and public key, in the picture I show here. So the public key is embedded in the client part software, and the private key is used for counting the votes, opening the votes, and the control over private key is split over 9 people, so to say. It's an out-of-M scheme, but the use of the private key is very, very controlled, and actually it happened last time with the cameras and about 80 foreign observers with a big ceremony. This is how it works, yeah.
But they are reliant on trusting the state not to keep copies of their private key.
Yes, well, that's the subject of the procedures and auditing. Again, we had a special occasion for destroying the private key, and it's also videotaped.
Okay. Other than KPMG, what other companies might we recognize who were involved in both the ID card and the voting projects?
Well, the KPMG didn't do much. They just looked it over, read the papers and saw whether what's happening corresponds to what's written. That's all they do. But the system itself was developed by a local company who has been doing development in IT security for a decade. My previous life was with this company as well. And my other face, I have 2 hats or faces. My other face actually works for a company who is taking care of the ID card applications and issuing certificates for ID card, which is certification center. So this company was somewhat involved also because, yeah, if people actually cannot use the ID card and some problems have, then they call us. So we had to deal with that, of course.
I just want to make one quick comment. You said that people trust this technology for their internet banking, so they should trust it for their e-voting. I don't know the laws in Estonia, but in the United States, if I lose money through internet banking, the bank will reimburse me and I have no risk. But with e-voting, I do have a risk. So.
Well, we use this notion of internet banking for comparing the two systems. So the goal was always that the internet voting system shall be more secure than a banking system. So if some requirements or security analysis were made, then also always why we step on that, saying that, okay, let's compare, okay, using ID card for authentication is more secure than going to internet bank with a PIN codes and so on and so forth. And of course, the public oversight over the central system, which is not existent in a banking system. So.
I see one problem. I don't know. You never can ensure that the voting will be secret, because you said somebody can stand behind you and tell you what you should vote, and then you can do it several times to ensure that the person can. But if somebody takes your ID card till the voting is over and knows your PIN, you never can really ensure that it's really secret, this voting.
Yeah, there are two parts. First of all, a definition of secrecy. If you want to be secret, it will be secret. Okay, if you lose your ID card, it's your obligation by law to inform that immediately. Okay, so this is actually something which is your obligation to keep secret. So. But you can lose ID card, but to lose pins as well, well, this takes some tricks.
You're absolutely sure in the ballot where you cast your vote, you're alone, but you never can be sure that this person is at home or at work alone. There's no influence from somebody else.
But the thing here is to give the possibility to have a privacy to people. If people don't want the privacy, you want to vote with your mother, for example, or I don't know. Some people want to vote with the family, actually. They want to. But they have absolute possibility to have a privacy because of revoting and manual revoting possibility. That you go to the polling station and vote in paper as usual, and your privacy is fine, and your e-votes are gone. So it's a matter of if you want to have privacy.
Okay, so let's see if I find the right words in English. Regardless of all the critical remarks made before, I still find it very cool that you set up a system for the whole world to fiddle with. And so I guess all the faults will be found sooner or later, and I applaud you for having a whole state as a test case.
Thank you. You're welcome.